Oh, the worst gig I've ever done. I'm going to tell you two stories. One's going to be legitimately like the worst gig outside of my control. And then the other one is going to be about a time I was terribly underprepared and the lessons that I learned from that. 2008, I had my first band that did anything, that got paid money to play songs, named Six Shooter. And if you're like me, you start over a lot. You find yourself working from the bottom up many times. There's probably something to investigate in that. But this was the very first time that I booked a gig with the band, and it was in a place in St. Petersburg, Michigan. And you know, when you book your first gig, you don't have any material to send out to a bar. So an establishment that may have had, I guess, a more established clientele or a more prestigious clientele is sort of off the table at first. So you gotta take what you can get. We show up on a Friday or Saturday night. My bass player had actually found this place, who is an older gentleman, older than myself and the drummer, and we trusted his judgment, as we had no reason not to. We are playing rockabilly music and 50s music, and so like Ray Charles and Elvis Presley, and on top of that too, I come from playing in a blues band that wasn't my band. That's why I'm saying this is my band. So we did a lot of Hendrix too, and B.B. King, and all the Kings, really, Albert King, and Freddie King. Somewhere during the second set, my drunk girlfriend, my wife now, gets up and walks past towards the bar, and I see these two guys talking, and one of the gentlemen removes his shirt, and it turns into a scene from American History X. And I know the term Nazi can get thrown around quite a bit, but this guy had the tattoo, all the other sort of accoutrements that would go with that sort of lifestyle, and we were in the boonies of Michigan. So this whole thing has to be de-escalated, thankfully, by my bass player, who was within swinging distance at that point. I don't know what he said or what sort of thing that made Stephanie just go to the car, but we packed up and got out of there as fast as we could. And needless to say, all of us were pretty shook up because the guy wasn't alone. He had many friends with him. I think him and his crew was the main patrons of the bar. Yeah, that shit was scary. That wasn't good. The second story I'm going to tell you is from 2013, and it was my second time out on the road with Whitey Morgan in the 78. A big opportunity for me to get up and play bass with Whitey Morgan, and one of my first times to actually travel with a band. Like, I'd done corporate gigs where we got to fly out places in the back, and then like maybe one-off trips here and one-off trip there. But this was like 11 days, through Dixie, which was fun, and I learned an awful lot. And then the second trip was just a little out west. I think we were going to Kalamazoo, Little Rock, Illinois, and then down through Missouri somewhere. I think we played Joplin. This wasn't even my first gig. This is a number of gigs into this run. And Whitey has a reputation that's well earned of being a hard drinking feller, and me, of 26, was going to, earn my keep with them and keep up with them every second that I could. And at one point, Whitey pulls me aside. This is at Bell's Brewery in Kalamazoo, and says, "Hey man, he points at a certain section of a song that I'm not exactly doing right." Now, I had played country music before. I am no stranger to country music, but this was 70s country music. It's slightly different than the 50s and 60s stuff that I'd been playing prior. But the song in particular was a cover of Working Man Blues that I had played maybe 100 times. And but they had a very great rendition of it that I don't think they play live anymore. But he had pointed out this drag triplet fill that was going on in there, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And I had just enough to drink, and Whitey's just one of the coolest people in the world, by the way. If you ever get the chance to meet him, super down to earth, just a great dude. He feels like your best friend. 2 or 3 sentences in, he doesn't say a whole lot, but what he says is awesome, and insightful and thoughtful. All great things I'm going to say about my former boss. And so I get nervous. And I think I messed up every single song. And the thing is, I know what he was trying to say now, and I understand why he was trying to do it and throw me sort of a lifeline to sort of get the song working. You know, this is a big stage. It was a big venue. They're paying big money to us, and I understand it. But it made me realize that I wasn't actually doing my homework. I took for granted the fact that most of these songs were just a handful of chords, and I didn't really put the time in to sort of take it in, to sort of garner the few aesthetics of the genre that aren't easily read in a piece of music or in a lead sheet. And it overall changed the way that I study for bands and for gigs now. And I take that time very seriously, which at the time I didn't. You know, I was 26 and playing Rockstar a couple weekends out of that summer. But coincidentally, 2 weeks later, he had a run down to Nashville that I was on, and I played what I thought was my most focused and cleared show. I didn't drink, didn't do anything like that till after the gig. I think every single note was in the right spot, and I don't think anyone noticed. Oh man, I miss those guys. It was a lot of fun. But there it is. Those are my 2 worst gigs. I think I've made it up pretty lucky in terms of some of the horror stories that I've been hearing. But yeah, let me know about your worst gig. See if you can do better.